G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to be going through the pod options for Supercoach in 2020. Now there are quite a few of them, so I apologise if this video is a little bit lengthy, and yeah, with no further ado, we're going to get stuck straight into this. So we're going to go defence first, and the first bloke I'm going to talk about is Dan Houston at 484k, a little bit more expensive than I thought he was going to be. Hyped him up in a previous video that he'd be a really good option. He has played 5 games over 100, and he is meant to play a lot of mid-time. I'm not really sure about Port Adelaide. They're a pretty unpredictable side, so it's hard to sort of tell how he goes. You know, he could be a really shit option. I'd definitely lock him in if he was, if he was sort of below 430 maybe. But nonetheless, probably going to be a really good pick. But I don't know if I really want to pay up for him at this stage. Look, he is a jet, especially his back half of the year. He did prove himself in the guts there, but it's a hard spot to fill at Port Adelaide. And we're just going to wait and see how he goes in the pracky matches. So next bloke we got here is Jordan Dawson. Now he's a popular pick, seems to be in a lot of people's teams. Now straight away I'm going to say I'm a bit scared of Dawson because he does share a role with Jake Lloyd, and that is a little bit of a concern. It's the reason why I'm not going to start Jake Lloyd as a premium option. I just think there are other options for that price. 467, he did play a couple of really good games, don't get me wrong, regularly scored over 100, but yeah, I am terrified of the role that he shares, and you're going to have to wait and see on him how he goes because I'm not quite sure if he's going to be a great option. Now, I've got a breakout pick here in Callum Mills. Now, 444k, maybe a little bit of a tease. Is he going to play midfield? I have no idea. Maybe. We just never know. Sydney, they're flipping around the magnets a bit at that club. What I do worry about is he has a really good role in defence with the Swans. He plays it really well, a little bit like Andrew McGrath. So, part of me sort of just thinks I don't think he's going to get much mid-time at all, especially with the young talent that they have at that club. And, it's pretty unlikely that he becomes a breakout, but, always talked about regularly, pick number 1 in the 2015 draft. So, should be a pretty good player within the next few years. Maybe he gets mid-time in his career, but yeah, it's unlikely in 2020. I don't really think he's relevant, but I have heard him being discussed over the off-season, so I thought I'd do my take on him. Now, next bloke's a bloke who I like a lot more, and that is Wayne Malira. Now, 402k, that is a tasty price for a bloke at this talent. Now, he could be a freak if he plays regular midfield. He is injury-prone, but he should be fit for 2020. I think he played a couple of games in the midfield, and both times he scored over 100, so I do like that about him. Adelaide lost a lot of players as well, and they got Josh Worrell as cover down there in defence and a couple of other cheeky options. So, yeah, he's probably going to get a lot more mid-time. I think it's pretty average if they just have the Crouch boys and Sloan run around in there all year. Surely those guys need a break and someone to swap with, and I think he's probably the man there. I think he can really fill up that midfield role really well. And, can't wait to watch him over the off-season. Another Adelaide Crows player, and we got Tom Doedee. Now, 273k. It's not a bad option. He ruptured his ACL last year, I'm pretty sure. But in his first year, he was averaging 82. So if he's fit, he could be a really great option. Great rookie. He was the best rookie of 2018 for sure, if you rule out Tim Kelly. So, player to think about. I've heard him, a couple of my mates are sort of tossing and turning in between him and think he's a great option. I don't mind it, but, there's a little bit of risk attached to it. And I like the bloke better I'm going to be talking about, and that is Robertson. Now, same sort of price. You probably either want to pick one or the other. It seems a bit weird having both of them in your side. There's a lot of risk attached to that. I'm not really sure if you're going to be game enough to do that, but Robertson looks like he could be a really great option. Now, I read an article, and he actually went to America to get treatment for his cardio surgery kind of thing. They said he should be good to go. He's meant to be having a full preseason at the moment. It should be good to go round one. You know, he's a rookie for that price. It's unlikely he becomes a premium or a keeper, I should say. But, you know, we only need him to play like 6 or 7 games, and then we can sort of get our bang for our buck with that pick. So I do like Robertson. Seems to be a pretty good pick, and he has averaged 90 plus before. So, you know, I'm flirting with that pick a bit, and he is in my team at the moment as we speak. So, yeah, not too bad of an option. So now I'm going to move into the midfield. Now I'm going to keep it pretty short with these ones. I'm not really a big fan of pods in the guts. I think you go guns and rookies. Keep it pretty simple, but I'm going to go over a couple of guys, or a few guys rather, who are in contention to be really great selections. And the first bloke might not seem like a pod at first, but Adam Treloar. Now, this bloke only had 20% ownership last year, and the highest averaging scorer, the highest disposal getter of 2019. He knows how to find it, does butcher it on occasions, but he has made me pay a lot for not selecting him. I've gone up against blokes who have often actually beaten me because he was that player of difference that they had. And at 615k, you know, I don't mind that price. You know, look at these blokes here. You're going to be paying over 630k for a decent option. So he could just be that little bit less money you got to pay. I reckon he can be a really good option. I'm not really sure if I'll pick him yet, but I am flirting with the idea. Now, next bloke I'm going to be chatting on is Jared Lyons. Now, for those of you that don't know this, Jared Lyons had 5 games scoring over 130 after the buys. Now, I did speak about that in my 5 underrated players video. If you want to go check that out, I uploaded that a couple of weeks ago, and I really do rate Lyons. One thing I will say about him is I'm worried about, you know, maybe he's going to be sharing points with Alice Yeoman. I know Zorko and Neil have pretty good job security. They cop tags. Lyons seems to just do whatever he wants, but, you know, there's meant to be some really good midfielders coming in. You know, does Hugh McCluggage come in and steal points? Does Jared Berry or any of these blokes come in and start playing midfield? That is a risk attached to the pick, but for that price, he's so cheap because he had a low average at the start of the year, had a role change, played a lot more mid and killed it. So for that price, I do like this pick, and I think he'll be the pod that I go with at this stage until something else sort of changes. And I do like the Jared Lyons pick. Now, Henderson. I've spoken about Ricky Henderson prior to this video. Now, Henderson, I think he's actually not a bad option. He had his career high season averaging over 95, but, you know, there's that argument that Tom Mitchell will, you know, to steal his role and take his points when they got Warple and stuff in the guts. So, you know, it's kind of unlikely that he continues this football. Or, yeah, there's that 94 average. There you go. So, yeah, I don't know. I think there are just other options. If he had, like, forward status for some sort of, you know, just thinking about that, I'd pick him, but probably not a midfielder. I'm not really looking at him at this stage. There are just so many other options. Who else we got? I'm going to talk about one more guy. Just brought him up before, Hugh McCluggage. Now, he seems to be in a lot of people's teams. I'm not a big fan of breakout picks, especially in the midfield. They can come back and bite you in the arse. But yeah, he has played a really good season in 2019. Same average as Henderson, but he's just stepped up his game. I'm not sure if he plays much midfield. He's got such a great role there on the wing. What an outside player he is. He's so damaging, gets the job done for the Lions, great accumulator, gets a lot of metres gained. He ticks all the boxes in Supercoach, but the question is, will he get enough of the pill? Will he play enough midfield? These are just, you know, questions that we're not going to know until the JLT games, I guess. The Pracky matches, rather. But I'm not really sure on McCluggage. I I don't mind him. Could be a really good option in the future. And yeah, saying that, definitely a future Brownlow medalist. Yeah, I really like McCluggage as a player, but probably not in Supercoach. Now onto the ruck. Now, the ruck's kind of an interesting one. There'll be a lot of blokes out there who think Gawn will be a huge slider, and you can argue that he's too expensive to have at your R2. That may be true. So, there's some other blokes in contention, like this guy here, Scott Lysette. Now, without Patrick Ryder in the side, who knows what this bloke is going to start averaging? Who knows what he's capable of? What I do know about Lysette is he scored 160 over 3 games. Now, that's pretty good. I mean, one of those scores was actually 180, so he can just tear up games. He's in the 180 club, I'm pretty sure. He just gets it done. He's such a gun player. Not sure if I can really search it. No, I can't really click on him too much. But yeah, he could be a really good option. If you don't really want to fork out the cash for Gawn, I think he's probably your next best option. Close mate of mine's licking his lips at Lysette and really wants to pick him. I'm a bit more simple. I'm a simple guy. I'd rather just pay up for the 2 guns, but this is just a different alternative, and it's fun to think about these other guys you could have in your side. So yeah, Lysette's probably my favourite option behind Gawn. If I was to pick anyone else, it'd be him. But another option I'm going to bring up is Riley O'Brien. This bloke is a gun. Highest averaging rookie or highest scoring rookie last year. He was pushing Jacobs into the 2s regularly, and he's also in the 180 club. Can you believe that? I mean, honestly, that is just a great achievement for a bloke so young. What I do worry about him is he wasn't really that consistent, and by not consistent, I mean 11 games scoring under 90 points. So, although he was capable of, belting out 150s and stuff like that every now and again, he's also extremely capable of scoring below 100. And, until I see a little bit more consistency from Rob, I'll think about selecting him. But I'm just not really 100% on that. There are probably just other blokes I would rather go towards. So, yeah, probably going to give O'Brien a miss. Now, next bloke I'm going to talk about is Nat Nui. You spell it. I'm not very smart, as you can see. There we go. Nick Nat, 457k. Big no for me, Nick Nat Nui. I hate this pick, honestly. I mean, he shares a role with Vardy. He's not fit. His body is absolutely cooked. He only plays about 50% game time. Pretty high average, as you can see. 93, that's pretty good. But I just don't like the pick. I hate the durability. I don't think he is willing to put out a full year of footy. Miracles do come true and they do happen, but in terms of Supercoach, I am extremely terrified to take the punt on Nick Nat. He could be a gun, player to think about, player to watch, but his history of injuries just lets him down in the end. And as good as a pick as this seems, I just don't think the conclusion is very good. So I'm going to give Nick Nat a miss. And the last bloke I'm going to talk about in the ruck is Sam Jacobs. Now, I like this price. I like the 348k price. He averaged 80 over 5 games last year. He's old and injury prone, and he's going to be sharing a role with Dawson Simpson and Big Sausage Shane Mumford. Now, that kind of worries me a bit. Is he going to be their number 1 ruckman? I just don't know. He's so risky. He's just a player that I want to stay far away from. I understand picking him to save money and spend elsewhere, but as I said before, I'm a simple man and I'm just going to pick Gawn and Grundy just because I like to be safe and I don't like to be burnt, because I do get burnt on occasions for making rash decisions in Supercoach. But they're the blokes in contention. Out of all of them, I like Lysette the most, I reckon. So onto the forward line now. Now, this is a pretty interesting topic, the forward line. And I reckon there are a couple of must-have potentials in this list. The first bloke I'm going to talk about, not really a must-have, but still sort of fun to think about it, and that is Hugh Greenwood. Now, Greenwood at that price, going over the Suns, should get plenty of mid-time. I do sort of worry about this pick. I'm not really 100% on it. I reckon it could be a bit of a trap, if I'm honest. Look, the bloke has extremely low meters gained. He butchers it a bit. And, he's at the Gold Coast Suns, and they won't win not much. And I don't think he's going to be a really great option. If he was, below 400k, I'd definitely consider it. But I just reckon there are other options, cheaper options, better options, and I'll touch on those later on in this video. Next bloke I'm going to talk about, I've heard a lot of things of. Blokes really getting hyped about him, saying that he could be anything. Could be a breakout to score that 1,000 goals. Buddy Franklin, 394k. Meant to have trimmed off a lot of weight. If you look at his Instagram, he looks like he's in great nick. They're going to be feeding the ball to him a lot like Ruffy in his last game. They're going to really want Buddy to kick 1,000 goals. You could argue he's been the highest averaging forward, the most consistent, durable forward of the decade in Supercoach. But the problem I have with Buddy is a pretty common problem, and he is a key forward, and key forwards are a big no for me in Supercoach. I stay as far away from them as possible. For example, I didn't get sucked into Jeremy Cameron last year, even though he was actually a pretty good option. He did have a couple of really bad games, and Buddy, he could kick 4 goals, maybe get 10 touches, he'll still only score 70 or 80. So, it's like even if he does hit the scoreboard, there's always that chance, that risk that he doesn't play the best Supercoach friendly role. For that price, pretty good. It looks good for 390, but it's almost 400k if you round it off, and there's money to be spent elsewhere for sure. And I'm probably just going to have to say no for Franklin at this stage. But yeah, could bite me in the ass. Could go back to his brilliant best. You never know if Buddy. But at the end of the day, probably not for me. Now, another bloke I see in people's teams at the moment, I see a lot of him. Meant to be a breakout pick of 2020. Andrew Brayshaw. Now, Freo lost a lot of midfielders over the draft. They lost their 2 main wingers. Is he going to swing in there? Is he going to play full-time midfield? He's been in there a couple of times and scored, that around that 90 area. Can he be this breakout player that we hope for? Pick number 2 in 2017 draft, I'm pretty sure. I know he went behind Cam Rayner, so he's got a high ceiling and he is meant to play some really good footy. I'm not sure. He's 382k. He hasn't really proved to be a consistent scoring midfielder. Hasn't really had much of a chance. Played a lot. I think did he play defence? I'm not really sure. I don't really follow the Dockers that well. Pretty average of me, but I haven't seen him score average. Haven't seen him score a nice average score, if that makes sense. I haven't seen him put out consistent 90s or 100s or anything like that. So, definitely a player to watch. In other words, is what I'm trying to say. I won't be starting with him, but, it could be a good option if he puts together a couple of cracking scores, get him mid-time with 5 for Monday. So, next option I've got is Jack Stephen. Now, he's a little bit more of a interesting option to think about, one that I like more than all 3 of the blokes that I've mentioned prior to this. Now, Jack Stephen, I've read an article and he looks to be tearing it up at Geelong. His mental state's up and about. He said that he wants to play the best footy he's ever played, which I think is crazy because he's won 4 best and fairnesses. I've mentioned this before, but for 361k, if he is fit round 1, lost a lot of weight, and he's ready to go, you can easily afford to take the punt on a 361k forward midfield. I'm not sure if he plays much midfield. Another thing that's fun to think about is with Tim Kelly going back to West Coast, someone else is going to fill the guts, and Dangerfield obviously going to be in there all the time now. Will play a lot less forward, but can Jack Stephen get his body right enough to be a regular midfielder? I'm really keen to watch him over the off-season on the practice matches. Follow him on Instagram, so I'm going to be taking notes of how well he's tracking and I'll see how fit he looks for 2020. But one really fun option to think about, and yeah, not a bad option at all if you decide to go with him. For a similar price, we got Devon Smith. Now, this is my favourite pick of all these options that I'm going to be naming. A bit biased because I am an Essendon supporter, but this bloke just racks up tackles. He's a really Supercoach friendly player. He averaged around 100 in 2018, and if he is fit, he is a lock for sure. And I just think for that price, and if he is up and about, ready to go, playing midfield again, he could definitely be a keeper, and that's what I like about him. What a steal he would be if he went back to his 2018 best. I don't think he's not a very injury-prone player in previous years. I think it's just he's had this one bad injury. I don't really know much about it, but he should be back to his best, hopefully. We're just going to have to wait and see on that, but I do love the Devon Smith pick. Now, the last bloke I'm going to be talking about I think he's a must-have, let's be honest. Stephen Hill. Now, I think you should have him. He's got defence status as well, but I think we should have him in the forward line because forward rookies have often been the worst rookies, let's be honest. They've burnt us on occasion. We saw that with Parker, Setterfield, other blokes, Drew when he lost his role to Ollie Wines. The list goes on really. So I think if we can have as minimal forward rookies in our team as possible, that's a good start. An interesting stat about Hill, I didn't put him in my first team for a few reasons. I don't like that 29 in average, 39. That's been in my face for a while now. But I just found out that Hill has averaged over 70 since 2012, and he's meant to be having a full preseason. Now, if that's the case, I think he is a brilliant selection at that price and almost a no-brainer. I was oblivious to that. Saw that low average score. I think he was pretty injured. But nevertheless, if he's back and ready to go, he could be a really good option. So, definitely good pick. Now, that's all I've got for this video. I'm going to wrap it up now because it's gone on way too long. These are... I thought about making separate videos for pods, like a defence pod list, midfielders pod, etc. But I thought I'd just chuck it all in the one video, get it over and done with. And, Be sure to let me know some other pods that you guys reckon will be good picks in 2020. And for now, I'll see you guys in the next video.